Hi, welcome back. Well, lawn bowling is a really big deal and a big budget with lots of stuff going on construction-wise. So we have Ernesto Munoz, who's here from Village Management Services, to tell us a little bit about the update. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Lisa. It's a pleasure to be here.
So you have a big budget and you have a lot going on.
A big budget, and we've started the year running. So this is one of the big projects that GRF has been very hopeful to get off the ground. This courts, the lawn bowling courts, were constructed a few years back, and unfortunately there were some shortcuts that were taken, and the outcome of the project was not a good one. Okay. So the courts were suffering from lack of levelness and some other issues that did not allow good playing on them. So GRF put money towards a project to reconstruct the courts. Mm-hmm. And we're very excited because we're at the end of it. We've gone through all the layers that are required to be reconstructed to end up with a top quality lawn bowling court. So I wanted to give an update today as to where we're at and let the residents know that this is going to be a beautiful amenity added to the many beautiful amenities that we have in the village.
Okay, great. So obviously your construction began in 2018, and I'll just let you take it from there.
Yeah, we began in January, and we're substantially complete at this point, but we're going through a punch list, and which are little things that need to be corrected from the work that the contractor did, and we anticipate having that done first week of March and turning it over to the residents to have fun with it.
Okay.
The GRF budgeted $592,000, and the contract that we awarded was for $530,000 or $535,000, and we issued a change order, and that's we added money to the original contract because of some unanticipated conditions that we found as we got into the construction.
Okay.
So next slide, please. So we delivered all of the material. This was built by it's a very unique court, and there are very few people that actually build these things. And we contracted with a firm from Australia. Oh. And they actually shipped all of the materials from Australia. Here in this picture, you've seen we're receiving one of the containers full of all the lawn bowling materials, which includes a special carpet that goes on top of it. And of course, this is being constructed at Gate 12, so this is the delivery of some of those materials. Okay. This is the original court, and we had a synthetic, these courts are synthetic material. There's courts that are made out of actual natural material, but these are synthetic materials. And this is what the original court looked like, and at this point we're removing the geotextile fabrics that are on top of it, and we're exposing the beginning of the surface where this geotextile fabrics sit on. So, okay. Next slide, please. During the process of doing that, exposing the materials, we realized that the layers that actually, the court is like a wedding cake. It's composed of many layers. Okay. And we came to a realization that the layers that were there were no longer usable. Actually, they were poorly constructed, and the materials were not the appropriate materials for the surfaces. So we decided that's when we issued a change order to the contract to get all of that material removed from there to start from the bottom, from the native materials. So this is where we're removing those materials that are no longer suitable.
Wow, so all the way down to the dirt.
All the way down to the basement soils, yes.
All right.
Next slide. So once we got everything removed, we got to the bottom layer, which is what we call the basement soils or the native dirt. We had to compact that, and we make sure that that was properly compacted at a 90% relative compaction, which is essentially the compaction that you require to build a road on. So very, very hard soil. So here you've seen compaction equipment going back and forth to getting us that tight soil that we were looking for. Okay. Next slide, please. We hire, because of the importance of this amenity to the community, we hire independent consultants to come over and do the soil testing. This is a geotech company that we hired separate from the contract itself to come over and do actual soil testing. Here's using a nuclear gauge here to determine what the hardness of that soil is. Okay. And we found that all of the shots that he took were higher than 90% relative compaction. As I mentioned, that's the hardness that we're looking for actually building a highway or a roadway on top.
Do they test for something like if there was an earthquake, how much movement? Is that part of the test or not?
No, usually the movement is really not that important. What is important, though, is differential movement. So if part of the court will move differently from other part of the court, then you have problems. But if the whole court moves with an earthquake, then there's no issues. Okay. But this tested for all the hardness, the actual hardness of the soil, which you wanted to be really, really hard.
Right, okay.
So, then subsequent to that, we applied a geotech style fabric. And what that does is separates one of the layers that we put on the cake from the basement soils, from the native soils. So they're laying that fabric here in this picture.
All waterproof?
No, it's actually, you don't want it to be waterproof. Oh. You want it to be able to be permeable so that the water can sip through the layers. You don't want water actually sitting in the court. You want it to sip through it.
Is it something like when you have this faux grass? Is it kind of like that type of thing where you have the different layers like you're talking about?
It's kind of like that, yeah. Okay. And then we actually included a drainage system, which you're going to see in one of the slides, which takes the water that comes in through and it permeates through the layers, and it takes it out. It takes the water out completely. Okay. So here you're seeing one of the first layers on the cake, and that's aggregate base material or rock. It's about 3/4 inch rock, and that's being spread over the geotextile fabric. And then all that water gets to this layer, actually enters those pipes, and then it takes it out away from the cords. Okay. So that's part of the drainage system. Here we're spreading the material, the 3/4 inch aggregate rock, and we're also compacting it and spreading it to, again, every layer has to be nicely compacted, and it has to be perfectly flat. Right. So that's part of what we're doing here. Then after that layer, we put in another fabric. Again, it's permeable fabric, but geotech style fabrics, while allows moisture to go through, doesn't allow the material that you put in it to go through. The material that we're placing on top of this fabric, it's more like rock dust. So it's very fine material, and you don't want it to commingle with the larger rock below it. Okay. So the larger rock below it actually gives it stability, it gives a solid base. Then we're going with a finer material on top, and that's what this is. Okay. This is the edges of the court. We put in aggregate base. You can see there the rock adjacent to the wall. That allows us the water to permeate through it and get down to the drainage system. We also replace all the wooden members at the edges of the court, and that's where the balls actually bounce.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Huh. And then once we had that rock dust layer in place, we added cement, and then we rototilled that cement in place, and then we added water. So essentially you end up with a concrete slab, if you would, you know, a pretty solid concrete slab after that. Right.
Huh. A lot of work.
Oh yeah, it's very meticulous, very intricate work. Here we're leveling, after we added that cement to the rock dust, we're leveling the cores, and this is a machine that is controlled by lasers, because we have a laser machine actually controlling the level of the scraping so that you have a perfectly flat surface. Wow. So they're leveling the cores there to make sure that it comes in within very, very high tolerance, which meet the world bowl tolerances.
Well, maybe they'll have some tournaments.
Oh, they will.
Imagine,
I'm sure they will. Yeah, and then after that, we installed pads, which are called shock pads, that add a little bit of a cushion between the slab and the final surface of the cords.
Okay. And how many lanes are there?
How many lanes? Actually, I couldn't tell you at this
Okay.
point how many lanes we got out of it, but
But it's a large area.
it's a large area,
Okay.
yes, very large area.
It looks like lots of people can enjoy it.
Yes, and this is the final surface. It's a synthetic course, like I said, and it's all sewn together. This is the machine where they're sewing the different layers to end up with a uniform layer that the residents will be playing on.
Okay. It's looking good.
Yeah, and then we actually, as I mentioned, we retain outside consultants separate from the contractor to tell us whether this was perfectly level or not. So this is a company that came in and they shot topographic shots around the court to make sure that it's perfectly level.
Great.
We wanted to make sure that we did this once. You know, the contractor happens to be from Australia, and we want to make sure that before the contractor left the country that this is perfectly level and well compacted. So that's why we retain the services of outside consultants independent from the contractor who reported to us to tell us exactly what the quality of the work that they were doing. And that's what we're accomplishing here. And this is the final course, all completed. At this point, we was ready for us to take topographic shots on top of it to make sure that it was perfectly level. And we've done that, and at this point, all it needs is just some minor touch-ups, and we're working with the contractor to complete those. And we're hoping to be able to wrap that up towards the end of this month and
Right.
early in March to turn it over to the residents.
Well, I can see with it looking like this, why you have people going, come on, it looks ready, right?
Yeah, we've had to tell people to stay off of it. There are people already jumping on it, trying to play.
I bet.
And we want them to wait because we want to receive a complete bill from the contractor.
Right.
And be able to contractually close the projects. So before we turn it loose to our residents. So very exciting project.
It certainly looks amazing, so good job on that. Now, if somebody did want to find out more information about the lawn bowling progress, where would they look for that information?
They can go on the website. We have what we call a project log
Okay.
that outlines all of the details on every single project that's going on with GRF, United, and Third.
Okay.
And that gives a high level of detail as to where we're at and when we anticipate completion, and it talks about the budget and all of that.
Okay.
So that's a good place for the residents to look.
Perfect, perfect. So if anyone wants to know more about lawn bowling, you know where to go. Thank you so much. It was nice to have you on. And I think I might just have to try lawn bowling. I haven't tried it, and that looks very inviting.
It'll definitely be, it's going to be one of the top courts around here.
Well,
So,
World Bowl, right?
that's right.
Excellent.
World Bowl of Standards.
Thank you. Thank you again.
You're very
we'll
welcome.
be right back after this.